I press play again, for maybe the 100th time. My laptop screen brightens, and there she is, Liz, my wife of 25 years, sitting on our living room couch. Her eyes are swollen, streaked with tears. The camera's a little shaky, the lighting off, but I can see every detail of her face. The way she clenches her jaw between sobs, the trembling in her fingers when she tries to speak. The volume's low, so I lean in. She says my name. Jim, please, can't we just talk? Right before the short recording ends. That's it. 13 seconds of heartbreak. I have no idea who filmed it or when exactly, but it must have been that day she realized what I'd done. What I'd shown to others. I press play again, and I smile. It's late, close to midnight. The only light in the room is the laptop glow and a small table lamp near my chair. On the table sits an antique clock, dull brass with a glass face, a little scuffed from years of use. The second hand ticks on. Tick, tick, tick. I can't help but think it's gotten louder these last few nights, or maybe it's just me. I can almost feel the sound reverberating in my chest. I close the laptop, and silence fills the room except for the persistent ticking. That clip, her tear-streaked face, has become the last thing I watch before bed. It's like a bedtime story, twisted though it may be. I'm not proud, but I'll admit seeing her tears has become a strange comfort. It reassures me that she finally grasps how badly she broke me. I used to be a straightforward man, nothing fancy. Work, home, the occasional ball game, a couple beers with my buddy Mark after a long week. When I was younger, I imagined I'd grow old in a quiet house with a dog in the yard, with the wife tending a small garden and me tinkering in the garage. That was enough for me. And for a while, I thought it was enough for Liz too. Looking back, maybe I should have seen it coming. But truth is, I never believed she could do something like that. I used to think, if I'm faithful, if I work hard, if I provide some sense of comfort and normalcy, we're good. I never suspected. Hell, I never even checked her phone or email or worried about those happy hour office gatherings. I trusted her. That's the worst part. I wasn't just lied to. My faith was twisted into a weapon. She grew this monster herself, piece by piece, in the quiet spaces where I wasn't looking. The clock is an ugly thing, but ironically, I've grown attached to it. She brought it home on a Friday. It came in a cardboard box she said was from a colleague at work. Her exact words. "You're always complaining you don't have a puzzle to figure out. Well, here you go, tough guy. Something for your mechanical brain." She tried to force a playful grin, but there was a nervous edge to it, something that didn't quite line up with her usual casual tone. I noticed it then, but shrugged it off. "Cool. An old clock," I said. "I'll see if I can wind it up." I remember how her hand shook when she set the box on the table. She was trying to appear casual, but her eyes were darting left and right, like she was worried I'd see something I shouldn't. At that moment, I just thought maybe she was stressed from work. If I'd known the truth. Anyway, I put the clock on my workbench in the garage that night, polished it a little, tested the gears, got it running. Weirdly enough, it was in decent shape. The inscription on the back said something like FT & Co. 1892. Antique, sure, but not exactly priceless. More curious than anything. I wound it carefully, set it on a shelf, and forgot about it until it chimed midnight. That's the first time I heard it. A hollow clang, louder than it should have been for its size, echoing through the garage. It startled me so much I nearly dropped my beer. The next night, Saturday, I heard that same clang again, but it wasn't just the chime. The ticking seemed off. Heavier, almost. I thought maybe the gears were misaligned, so I lifted the clock to check if something was rattling inside. The back panel was loose. Being the tinkerer I am, I unscrewed it. That's when I saw something taped inside. A small flash drive. Black, no markings, hidden behind the interior workings. You can guess the rest. That's how I found them. Liz and her colleague, Brad. Photos, videos, messages, time-stamped, date-stamped. My wife, sitting in his lap, in what looked like an office with the blinds drawn. Her skirt hiked up almost to her waist. She's smiling that smile I used to think was meant only for me. I want to be clear. It wasn't just a quick kiss. This was full-on, half-naked, heated, erotic stuff. Not a subtle flirt or a friendly hug. We're talking legs over his lap, blouse undone, her head thrown back, lips parted in a laugh I'd never seen before. I remember staring at the screen, my gut twisting so bad I thought I would pass out. I must have watched that first video 5 times, just to convince myself this was real. The flash drive contained a bunch of screenshots too. Some from text messages, some from emails. Enough to map out exactly how long this had been going on. The earliest date went back almost 7 months. I didn't scream. I didn't smash anything. That might have been easier. Instead, I sat there like I was underwater, everything muffled, my heart pounding in my ears. My mind jumped around. This is a nightmare. Any second I'll wake up. Or maybe it's a prank. Or maybe these were old photos from some misunderstanding. But I saw the date stamps. I recognized the clothes she'd worn to the office just last week. The angles, the grainy shots from a phone propped on a desk. And I realized with a cold finality. This is happening right now. My wife is cheating on me, messing around with some coworker I barely know. The next day, Liz acted normal. She kissed my cheek, asked if I wanted bacon or just eggs for breakfast, rummaged through the newspaper. I played along. My decision to remain silent was not a conscious plan of revenge, at least not at first. It was survival. I felt if I confronted her right then, I'd either break down or do something I'd regret. I needed space to think, so I turned quiet, answering her questions with simple nods or yes/no grunts. She noticed, of course, but she attributed it to some mood of mine. She joked, "You want me to find you another clock to fix," forcing a laugh, probably trying to gauge my reaction. I shrugged. That Monday, I disappeared from our family photos. Digitally, I mean. I went through social media, photo albums on cloud storage, everything that existed of us. Over the years, we posted countless pictures. Birthdays, anniversaries, random weekends at the lake, a few old wedding shots I'd scanned. I methodically deleted them or cropped myself out. In some cases, I replaced them with black squares, just for the hell of it. I was thorough. It took hours, but it was oddly satisfying. I refused to let her share those illusions of a happy couple. Not after what I'd seen. Liz eventually noticed. She asked me why some images were missing. I just shrugged. Later that night, when she confronted me more directly, "Jim, did you delete our vacation photos?" I calmly wound the clock. That was my entire response. Right there, in the living room, at about 11:55 p.m. A minute later, the midnight chime echoed. I stared at her. She stared at me. We went to bed without another word. In the following days, she grew frantic. Each time she asked what was wrong, I'd do something with that damn clock. Reset the time, polish the face, or just place it next to me, while I pretended to scroll on my phone. The significance wasn't lost on her. By then, she must have realized that flash drive was meant for me to find. She started checking the clock, too, fiddling with the sides, but she never confronted me about it directly. It was as if we'd stepped into a silent war. The tension was suffocating, and I could sense her spiraling. But I didn't give in. When you discover your wife's unfaithful, there's a sense of unreality. You feel like a ghost, floating through your own life. I found myself driving to work with the radio off, lost in thought. I'd stare at traffic lights until they turned green and people behind me honked, because my mind was stuck replaying those images. The hardest part was reconciling the woman I loved with the images I'd seen. Her parted lips, the tilt of her head, the way she clutched at his shirt. That was my Liz, but it was also someone else. Someone new, someone I didn't recognize. I won't say I was the perfect husband. I was far from it. Maybe I got complacent. I rarely brought her flowers. We fell into routine. And she, well, maybe she craved excitement. But that doesn't justify betrayal. She could have talked to me, told me she was unhappy, threatened to leave if that's what it took. Instead, she found a man who whispered the right words in a quiet office corner. She gave him the parts of herself she vowed belonged to me. People talk about fighting for your marriage or going to counseling. Maybe under different circumstances, I would have tried. But the moment I saw those photos, like physical proof of her disloyalty, I felt something snap. I realized the old me had died. The identity I cherished, husband, provider, the steady rock, was gone. I was just a man with a big hole in his chest. So I found a new mission, to ensure they felt my pain. Maybe that's not noble, but it's honest. Her colleague is named Brad Henderson, something I learned from the emails on the flash drive. By cross-referencing email addresses, timestamps, and bits of conversation, I pieced together that he's some mid-level boss in her department. Married, with a son in high school. At first, that last detail was just a fact. But the more I thought about it, the more it burned. He had a family, too. He should have known better. He wasn't some horny single guy hitting on a lonely woman. He made vows, just like I did, and just like she did. I kept digging. Since I work in electronics and know my way around digital forensics, it wasn't hard to create a fake social media account and poke around. Office gossip, his colleagues' timelines. Eventually, I discovered that his wife, Caroline Henderson, was planning a birthday celebration in 2 weeks. Nothing huge, just a small gathering at their house, but important enough that she posted a few teasers about turning 45 and planning a candlelit dinner. Perfect, I thought. But I waited, watched, compiled every shred of evidence I had. Meanwhile, Liz kept up her facade of normal life, though she was clearly on edge. She asked me directly a few times, "Jim, talk to me. You're scaring me." She even tried to initiate intimacy once, I guess out of guilt or desperation. The moment her hand slid onto my shoulder, I felt revulsion. I politely removed her hand, muttered something like, "Not tonight," and walked away. She cried quietly in our bedroom that night. I heard her sobs through the door. I almost felt pity. Almost. I gathered the puzzle pieces I needed. I sorted and arranged the screenshots, the emails, the photos, and the short videos. I selected the best ones, the ones that left no room for doubt. Then I put them on a USB drive, sealed it in an envelope, and wrote a small note. "Open these tonight, by candlelight. This is not what you deserve, but you have a right to know who you're sleeping next to." No signature. The day finally came, Caroline Henderson's birthday. I'd already taken the day off. I packed the envelope in my jacket and drove to their neighborhood. An upscale area with well-maintained lawns and neat sidewalks. No heads up, no phone call. That was the point. I wanted to catch them off guard, show up with the quiet, unstoppable force of everything they try to hide. The Henderson house was easy to identify. Balloons on the mailbox, a small happy birthday sign on the porch, the kind of suburban cheer that used to make me feel warm, but now just felt hollow. I knocked on the door. A second later, she opened it, Caroline herself. I recognized her from a few photos on Brad's social page. Dark hair pulled back in a casual bun, a warm but slightly puzzled smile. "Hi," I said, mustering a polite tone. "Mrs. Henderson?" She nodded, glancing at me curiously. "Yes. May I help you?" I reached into my jacket, pulled out the envelope. "This is for you," I said quietly. "I'm sorry to intrude like this, but you need to see it. Open it when you're alone. By candlelight, if you can manage. And remember, this isn't your fault. It's just the truth." Her face froze in that polite but baffled expression. She took the envelope gingerly. "Sir, Do I know you? No, I said. But we share something in common. She looked at the envelope, then at me, searching for an explanation in my eyes. I saw confusion, and maybe a spark of fear, or maybe she recognized the quiet devastation on my face. My wife, I continued, speaking slowly, works with your husband. I didn't say anything else. I just stepped back, walked off her porch, and made my way down the driveway. Before she could ask another question, I was in my truck, pulling away. I didn't see Brad's car there, so I guess he was still at the office or out picking up last-minute birthday supplies. In my mirror, I saw Caroline step onto the porch, envelope clutched to her chest, eyes still locked on me. I drove home. The entire ride, I pictured the scene that would unfold later that evening. Caroline, maybe with a glass of wine, deciding to open that envelope in the glow of some romantic birthday candles. The confusion turning to shock as she scrolled through the images, read the text transcripts, watched the short video clips. By then, Brad would be home, playing the loving husband, maybe wearing a big grin. She might call him into the dining room. The confrontation would be messy, heated, possibly tearful. One day, maybe she'd thank me. Maybe not. But my job wasn't to get her thanks. It was to drag them both into the open. That night, back home, I was in the living room again with my laptop. The clock chimed. Midnight. I took a long, steady breath. Liz had gone to bed earlier, claiming a headache. She probably sensed a shift in me. Maybe she guessed that the other shoe was about to drop. I listened to the heavy ticks of the clock for a moment, then opened my laptop. I had new messages. A couple of them were from her, ironically. Short, "Where are you?" or "I can't sleep." But one of them caught my attention. It was from an unknown account. Subject line, "Why?" I clicked it. The email was from a personal address with Brad's name in it. I recognized it from the flash drive. The text was brief and frantic. "How dare you do this? Caroline just kicked me out. She knows everything. I'll make sure Liz hears about your sick mind. You can't destroy people's lives and walk away. You're twisted, Jim." I leaned back in my chair. My chest felt tight, but not with fear, more with a sense of finality. He'd already found out, and he was lashing out at me like I was the villain. A short laugh escaped my lips. "How dare I?" he asked. He was the one who touched my wife, broke our vows, and shattered everything I believed in. But sure, let me be the twisted one for shining a light on it. The hypocrisy was almost comical. I considered replying, something like, "Actions have consequences, pal." But instead, I closed the email and let him stew. If he wanted to confront me face to face, I half hoped he would. Upstairs, I found Liz still awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, knees drawn up, eyes red. She must have heard me on the stairs, because she looked up, startled. I stood in the doorway, my silhouette dark in the hallway light. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Her eyes darted to my hands, like she expected me to be holding some kind of evidence or weapon. Finally, she spoke in a trembling voice. "Jim, what's going on? I can't live like this. If you're angry about something, please, just tell me. We can fix it." I took a slow breath, and the words I wanted to say clogged my throat. I wanted to scream at her. I wanted to play the videos right there, force her to watch them, see her face twisted in shame. But something else came out instead, quiet, steady, cold. "Liz," I said, "you're not forgiven. Remember that." She covered her mouth with her hand, eyes filling up with tears. "What does that mean?" I shook my head, stepped back into the hallway, and said over my shoulder, "Just remember it." Then I turned off the light. Days passed. I didn't hear from Caroline again, but I heard plenty from Brad. Half angry, half pleading emails. Threats of legal action, attempts to blackmail me at work, which was laughable, since I never touched anything unethical on company time or hardware. He accused me of manipulating Liz, as if he and Liz were the helpless victims. I didn't take the bait. Meanwhile, Liz's tension escalated. She tried everything. Cooking my favorite meals, apologizing for whatever I'd done. She even suggested we see a therapist, though she still wouldn't admit to the affair. I guess she was hoping to fix this without having to face the truth. I responded in the same calm manner, by winding the clock every midnight. That became my ritual. She'd stand in the doorway and watch, uncertain whether to speak. She even tried to hide the clock one morning, moved it to the attic. But by noon, it was back in the living room. I found it easily. She almost looked relieved when I placed it on the mantel again, as if this dark game we were playing needed that focal point to remain real. One afternoon, Mark, my friend from work, asked me if everything was all right at home. He'd noticed my new pattern of silence, the tension behind my eyes. Maybe. I almost told him everything, but I stopped short. This was personal. I just said, Liz and I are going through something. Don't worry. I've got a plan. He patted my shoulder and let it drop. Mark's a good guy. He'd stand by me if I asked. But revenge is a personal path. I didn't need allies. Late that night, as I scrolled through messages on my laptop, I realized Liz was awake behind me. I heard a soft shuffle, turned my head, and there she was in her robe. She approached cautiously, like I was a wounded animal that might lash out. She took a seat on the couch, across from me. We just looked at each other in the dim living room light. The clock's ticking felt enormous. "What have you done?" she asked quietly. I let a beat pass. "Done about what?" She swallowed. "Brad called me at work today. He was furious. He said something about you sending evidence to Caroline. He said you're tormenting him." I almost laughed. "Torment? Liz, you want to talk about torment?" She flinched. "So it's true. You gave Caroline something." I nodded. I gave her the truth. Liz bowed her head, tears gathering in the corners of her eyes. "Jim, we never meant to." She paused, probably realizing the futility of that sentence. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I lost my head. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I stared at her, my jaw tight. But it was. For 7 months, apparently. I could see the color drain from her face. So now it was out in the open. She broke down in quiet sobs, shoulders trembling. "Jim, please. I didn't know how to tell you. I don't know what I was thinking. I never wanted to hurt you." I closed my laptop. "You should have thought about that before you made your choice. Now you live with it." She tried to come closer, but I held up a hand. "No, don't." She froze, eyes wide. "Are you going to leave me?" A bitter taste filled my mouth. "Leave you?" I repeated. "Liz, you left me the day you let that bastard put his hands on you. I'm just here tying up loose ends." She started weeping again, but I was beyond comfort. Her tears only stirred a dull resentment in me. This was the moment I expected some wave of compassion, or heartbreak, or the memory of all we'd shared. But all I felt was a cold satisfaction. The monster she'd grown in me was fully awake. The next few weeks were an odd limbo. Brad had apparently been kicked out of his house, or at least was sleeping in a friend's place. Liz was barely functioning. I went to work, came home, ate in silence. She tried to talk to me, explain her side, fill me in on how it just happened. But the more she tried to clarify, the more I realized she was only trying to absolve herself. The basic truth was she had an affair with her boss, snuck around behind my back for months, and only felt remorse once I caught her. I owed her nothing. There's a certain power in silence. I learned that the moment I discovered her secret. Screaming, ranting, throwing things might have given her an outlet to fight back. Silence, though, it's like a mirror. It forces the other person to confront themselves. She had no choice but to watch me withdraw from her, inch by inch, while the guilt tore her apart. And trust me, I wanted her to feel it. Every second. Meanwhile, the clock ticked on. I'd wind it at midnight like some unholy ritual. Sometimes I'd let it chime a little off schedule, just to see Liz jolt in surprise. The house felt haunted by that mechanical heartbeat. It reminded her, and me, that every hour brought consequences. Brad tried to call me directly, on my cell, on my office line. I blocked him everywhere, except for email. He typed these long, ranting messages about how he would sue me for invasion of privacy, or how I was destroying families. In one email, he said if I didn't stop, he'd expose Liz at work. That made me laugh out loud. I thought, expose her how? Everyone probably already suspected, and if they didn't, well, I wasn't about to step in to protect her or him. Let them burn in their own mess. I never responded. My silence enraged him further, judging by the increasingly desperate tone. I pictured him alone in some crappy sublet, stewing in the ruin of his double life. He had to look his teenage son in the eye, or maybe he didn't, since he was kicked out. Either way, he couldn't pretend anymore that he was the perfect husband and father. Good. Liz tried to contact Caroline as well, though I have no idea what she planned to say. Maybe she wanted to apologize. Maybe she wanted to beg her not to punish Brad too harshly. I don't know. All I know is that Caroline never responded. In a twisted way, I felt for Caroline the most. She was innocent, as far as I could tell. She deserved better than that scumbag. I hoped she'd find her own path forward, with or without him. As for me and Liz, our house became a husk. We slept in the same bed, but there might as well have been a concrete wall between us. She'd curl up under the blanket, hugging a pillow, facing away from me, shoulders shaking with silent cries. I'd lie on my back, staring at the ceiling, counting the ticks of that damned clock from the next room. It felt like purgatory. One night, after nearly a month of this tension, I woke to find her missing from the bed. I wandered downstairs and found her in the living room, hugging the clock to her chest, tears streaming down her face. In the dim glow of a single lamp, she looked broken, hair tangled, eyes hollow. When she noticed me, she set the clock on the table and stood up, stumbling a little as though drunk. But I knew she wasn't. She was just exhausted. Without waiting for me to speak, she started babbling. I never meant it to go so far, Jim. I just wanted to feel something again. I was lonely. Or bored. I don't even know. I wanted to feel like a woman, not just a coworker or a wife who's ignored. I know that sounds stupid, but it's the truth. I said nothing, just watched her. She picked up the clock again, ran her fingers over its face. I thought you'd like this. I mean the puzzle of it, you know, messing with old gears. I had no idea. She trailed off, sobbing. I stepped closer, gently took the clock from her hands, and placed it back on the table. Liz, I said softly, enough. Enough of the excuses. She nodded miserably. Are you going to forgive me? A bitter laugh escaped me. Forgive you. Forgiveness isn't something you can demand. It's something you earn. And, as of right now, you haven't earned a damn thing. She sank to her knees, pressing her forehead against my leg, sobbing like her life depended on it. My gut twisted, but I kept my composure. My hand hovered above her head for a second, but I pulled it back. I reminded myself of the images I saw, the moans I heard, the text messages they shared. This was the same woman. I gently pulled my leg away, stepped around her, and went back to bed. The tension reached a boiling point after that night. She started frantically tidying the house, cooking elaborate meals, and leaving me sticky notes that said, I love you, please talk, on my mirror or lunch bag. I recognized the pattern. She was trying to love bomb me into responding, but my heart had hardened. Sure, I felt an occasional flicker of pity or nostalgia, but no real desire to fix anything. My identity had been ripped away from me, and I was shaping a new one, a man who doesn't let betrayal slide. One afternoon, I came home earlier than usual, around 3 p.m. Instead of the usual silence, I heard voices. A male voice, raised. My blood ran cold. I stepped into the living room, and there he was, Brad, tall, dark-haired, wearing a rumpled dress shirt, hands clenched at his sides. Liz stood by the couch, tears on her cheeks, looking panicked. They both turned when I entered. Brad looked at me with unrestrained loathing. "You," he spat. "You think you can just blow up my life without consequences." I dropped my keys on the table, took a slow breath. "Get the hell out of my house," he sneered, stepping forward. "Or what? You'll do more behind-the-scenes sabotage. You're a coward, Jim. She told me you haven't even confronted her about the affair. You're just punishing us, lurking around like some silent psycho." Liz tried to intervene, stepping between us. "Brad, please, I told you it was a mistake for you to come here." He brushed her aside. "I'm not leaving until we settle this." His voice trembled slightly, a mixture of anger and fear. "Settle what?" I growled. "You ruined your own marriage, and you wrecked mine. You don't get to come into my house and demand anything." He clenched his jaw. "You had no right dragging Caroline into this. That was between me and Liz." I laughed bitterly. "Between you and Liz? You had a wife, you son of a bitch. You're the one who took a vow. She did too. You want to talk about rights?" Liz was sobbing, wringing her hands. "Stop it, please, both of you. This isn't helping." Brad's gaze flicked to her. "Liz, come on. You wanted to leave him, remember? You said you were done with this lifeless marriage. Let's just go." My stomach turned at his arrogance. "You better not take one more step." He turned back to me, eyes ablaze. "What are you gonna do? Hit me?" "Yeah, go ahead. Give me a reason to call the cops." I held his stare, my fists itching. "No," I said, "I'm not going to give you that satisfaction. Now get out." Liz tugged on his arm. "Brad, please. This was a terrible idea. Just go." For a tense moment, it looked like he might try something. But then his shoulders slumped. He glanced at Liz with pure disgust, maybe because she wasn't running off with him. Then he shot me a final glare and shoved past me toward the door. "You're both sick," he muttered. "Deserve each other." As soon as he was gone, Liz collapsed onto the couch, her face buried in her hands. I stood there, breathing hard, adrenaline coursing through my veins. Finally, I managed to speak. "You let him in." She shook her head, voice muffled. "He just showed up. I told him to leave, but he wouldn't. I'm so sorry, Jim. I told him we were done. That I made a horrible mistake. Please, believe me." My pulse was pounding in my ears. I wanted to smash something, to rid the house of his presence. Instead, I turned away and climbed the stairs. "I can't do this right now," I said over my shoulder. "Don't follow me." She didn't. In the week after that confrontation, Brad didn't attempt to come back. I suspect Liz told him in no uncertain terms to stay away. Maybe Caroline had lawyered up, or maybe Brad was too busy trying to salvage his job. I couldn't care less. My focus was on severing any last ties that bound me to Liz. I contacted a divorce attorney, quietly, discreetly. I didn't tell Liz yet, but I started the paperwork, just to feel that sense of momentum. At the same time, a part of me was still haunting our relationship's grave. I found myself in the garage some nights, just staring at the old clock, remembering the moment I first discovered that flash drive. The memory no longer felt like a punch to the gut. It was more like an old wound, throbbing. Winding that clock had become symbolic, reminding me. Time's moving forward, unstoppable, and so is my decision. Liz sensed the shift. She tried to corner me with talk of counseling, tears, apologies. "I'll never do it again, Jim. I was weak, I was scared, but I know now. I want you. I want us," she'd say, voice quivering, eyes red. She insisted that nothing actually happened for the first few months, that it was just friendship, but it escalated. I believed her in the sense that an affair often starts emotionally before it becomes physical, but it didn't matter. She crossed that line, lied about it, and only came crawling back after she got caught. I gave her no definitive answer. I didn't say, "We're done." I didn't say, "I'm staying." I just let her twist in the wind, the same way she left me in the dark for 7 months. One rainy Saturday, I was in the living room, the clock ticking away, when she approached me with a large manila envelope clutched to her chest. Her hands shook. "Jim," she began, voice raw, "these are the divorce forms. I see you've started them." My heart thumped. So she'd found out. Maybe the lawyer reached out to confirm some details. Okay. She held the envelope tighter. "You didn't even talk to me first." I said nothing. Her eyes filled with tears again, but there was a new firmness in her voice. "I get it. I deserve this. But I'm asking, please, give me one chance to show you I can fix this. If you still want to sign, I'll hand them over. I won't fight you." I stared at her for a long time, letting the clock's ticking fill the space. Finally, I whispered, "It doesn't matter what you do. Some things can't be undone." She nodded slowly, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Okay. If that's your final word." Before she could finish, the doorbell rang. We both stiffened. She shot me a wary glance, maybe worried it was Brad again. I walked to the door and looked out the window. It was Caroline Henderson, standing on our porch with an umbrella. My pulse jumped. I opened the door slowly. Liz hovered behind me. Caroline looked tired, sad. Her eyes flicked to Liz, then back to me. "Can I come in for a moment?" she asked softly. I stepped aside. Liz automatically moved back, her face stricken. Caroline took a few steps into the foyer, closing her umbrella. She was well put together, wearing a neat trench coat, dark hair braided. I remembered the last time I saw her. Her birthday, the envelope. She gazed at me with a complex expression. "I'm sorry for showing up unannounced. Can we talk privately?" Liz looked panicked, like a caged animal. She bit her lip. I'll go upstairs." Caroline didn't stop her. Once Liz was out of earshot, I led Caroline to the living room. She glanced around, noticing the old clock on the table, the manila envelope. She exhaled softly. "I spoke with my lawyer last week," she began. "I'm divorcing Brad. He, of course, hates me right now, but that's not why I'm here." I nodded, not sure what to say. "I just wanted to tell you something face to face." Caroline continued, her voice trembling slightly. "I appreciate you giving me the truth. I wish I'd never had to see those pictures, but better the truth than living in lies. So, thank you." A strange relief washed over me. "You're welcome," I managed. Caroline looked around, as if searching for the right words. Are you two working things out?" I hesitated, glancing at the stairs. "I don't know," I admitted. "She wants to, but I'm not sure I can." Caroline's eyes flicked to the clock, then back to me. "I don't blame you. I couldn't." She swallowed hard. "Anyway, I just wanted to say that I'm sorry for everything you must have gone through, and that if you ever need a statement from me or, I don't know, anything legal, I'll help." I nodded, a lump in my throat. "Thank you, Caroline. That means a lot." She looked like she had more to say, but then she just gave a small, sad smile. "I should go. I'm still picking up pieces of my own life." She turned to leave. Impulsively, I said, "Caroline." She paused. "Yes." I cleared my throat. "You deserve better, you know." Her eyes shimmered with tears. "We both do." Then she left, shutting the door behind her with a soft click. Time slipped by. The hush in the house became an almost physical presence. Liz's attempts at reconciliation continued, but I didn't waver. I reread the texts on that flash drive, the photos, the explicit videos, forcing myself to remember that sense of betrayal. That was my anchor. I didn't want pity to overshadow what she'd done. Eventually, the day came when I felt the last shred of hesitation fall away. I'd had enough. And ironically, it happened in the quiet moments just before midnight. I was in the living room, the clock ticking on the mantel. Liz was upstairs, probably crying herself to sleep again. I stared at the clock's face, reflecting on everything. Her lies, Brad's arrogance, Caroline's sorrow, my own transformation from trusting husband to, well, this, a man fueled by revenge, and the need to remind them all that I remember. And I won't forgive. The second hand moved closer to midnight. I walked to the bookshelf where I kept the divorce papers, pulled them out. The clock began its chime. Deep, hollow, echoing. I signed where I needed to sign, ignoring the burn in my chest. Then I let the chime fade. I pulled my phone from my pocket and texted Liz. Come downstairs. A minute later, she appeared at the top of the stairs. Her eyes were bloodshot, hair messy, wearing an oversized t-shirt. She saw the papers on the table. Her face crumpled. No, she breathed, shaking her head. Jim, please. I held up a hand. Listen, you want to talk. Now's the time. She padded down the stairs, tears already streaming. She stood across from me, the coffee table between us. The clock ticked on. Jim, I love you. I know I messed up. I was stupid. I lost sight of what mattered. I tried. But if you feel like you can't forgive me, I'll accept that. Just, can we at least try counseling? One session. The raw desperation in her voice might have broken me a month ago. Now, it just felt empty. Liz, this can't be undone. The moment you... My voice cracked. I took a breath. I saw the videos, the messages. I saw who you really were behind my back. That image is burned into my skull. She trembled, crossing her arms over her chest. So, that's it. You're leaving. Yes, I said, my voice low. I can't share my life with someone I can't trust. And I definitely can't give you the closure you're begging for. I want you to live with what you did. She sobbed openly now, tears hitting the floor. I'll do anything to make this right. I sighed, felt a pang in my chest. There's nothing you can do, don't you get it? This was your choice, this monster in me. You fed it. She sank onto the couch, face in her hands. I hate what I've done. I hate myself. But I don't hate you. I can't lose you, Jim. My gaze drifted to the clock again, that unrelenting tick, tick, tick. You already lost me the day you started this affair. I grabbed the papers, flipped to the last page. It's all here. We can try to make it civil. The house, the car, whatever. I'm not out to destroy you, Liz. I just won't be a part of your life anymore. She nodded, trembling hands wiping tears. I can't stop you, if this is what you want. I inhaled sharply, sealed the packet. It's not what I want. It's what I'm left with. You saw to that. Now it's done. She opened her mouth as if to protest, but no words came out. Finally, she looked at me with a mixture of grief and resignation. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'll say it 1,000 times if I have to. I nodded, turning away. Keep saying it, if it helps you sleep. 2 days later, I packed a small duffel bag, left the rest of my stuff for another time. I had an apartment lined up across town. It wasn't much, just a short-term lease, a place to land while I sorted out the rest of the paperwork. Liz didn't try to stop me when I walked out. She just stood at the top of the stairs, hugging herself like she was freezing. I looked at her one last time, then stepped through the door. The sky was overcast, a fine drizzle misting the windshield as I started my truck. For a second, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror, gray at the temples, a crease between my brows, eyes hardened. I recognized a new me staring back, a man carved by betrayal and vengeance. I wasn't sure if that was good or bad, but it was real. When I pulled out of the driveway, a strange sense of calm settled over me. It wasn't happiness, not by a long shot, More like relief that I'd taken the final step. The monster she created was now free to roam on its own terms, without her illusions tying it down. I found myself driving past the Henderson house, that place where I'd dropped off the envelope. It looked dark and empty. No car in the driveway. Caroline must have moved on, or was in the process of it. Part of me wanted to knock on her door, see how she was holding up. But that wasn't my place. We were just two casualties of Brad and Liz's choices, each scared in our own way. That night, in my new apartment, I unpacked slowly. The rooms felt hollow, the walls bare. I set my laptop on a flimsy kitchen table, tried to see if I had any messages. More hateful emails from Brad, threats, curses, the usual nonsense. I deleted them. Nothing from Liz, which almost surprised me. Maybe she was giving me space, or maybe she'd realized it was pointless. I scrolled through my phone to that short video of her crying on the couch, the clip I'd watched obsessively for the last few weeks. I hadn't filmed it, had no idea where it came from, but it was a perfect summary of the last phase of our life together. Her tears, begging, my silence. I hovered my thumb over the play button. I pressed it. The video started. She was sobbing, voice cracking, saying my name. Halfway through, I paused it. Then, for reasons I still can't fully explain, I hit delete. The file vanished from my phone. I guess, in that moment I realized I didn't need it anymore. My revenge was complete. I'd exposed her and her lover to the people who mattered. I'd walked away. She was left with her guilt and shame. He was kicked out of his home. Caroline was free of his lies. And me? I was alone, yes, but at least I was no longer living a charade. I closed my eyes, letting the silence of the apartment wash over me. Maybe I'd never fully heal. Maybe I'd always carry that bitterness. But I also felt a strange sense of power in acknowledging that I was the one who set the dominoes falling. I reminded them all that betrayal has consequences, that I remember everything. If they were naive enough to think they could hide, I showed them the truth. I breathed in, exhaled slowly. The next chapter of my life was beginning, however dark and uncertain. I thought of the old clock, ticking away in the empty house I'd left behind. Liz could keep it. Let it remind her, every midnight, that forgiveness doesn't come on demand. And if she ever wonders about me, if she ever tries to conjure my memory late at night, well, she'll hear that chime echoing through the silent rooms. And she'll know I'm gone for good. I had no regrets. End.